Hi everybody, welcome to week 4 of Facebook marketing. This week we're going to be talking about measurement. I think at this point, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, you're probably not going to join the Facebook group, so I won't tell you to join again, but I will say that it is a resource that is made for you. So if you have any comments or questions related to the readings that you're doing, related to your assignments, if you want to strike up a discussion with your fellow classmates about Facebook marketing, that is the place to do it. And of course, I will chime in when I feel it's appropriate. So thanks to everybody who has already posted something. Thanks to everybody who's been joining in the discussion. But by all means, you can keep it going, anything related to Facebook marketing. That's what that group is for. This week, we are going to be talking about metrics versus KPIs, Facebook Insights, and your assignment. So sometimes when we are researching online, or you're looking online, or maybe you're in a meeting with your boss or with your other teammates, you're going to hear the words metrics and KPIs, and some people use these terms interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. And our definitions are important because when we use terms incorrectly, it causes confusion, and we want to make sure that as marketers and as advertisers that we are using the right terms to fit what you're talking about. So metrics are quantifiable measures used to gauge performance or progress, and key performance indicators are a type of metric. So these are metrics that are most closely aligned with your critical business objectives. So everything that you're measuring is a metric, but the things that are incredibly important to your bottom line are those key performance indicators. And then, of course, we've got vanity metrics. So these are metrics that people will often report on because they sound really awesome. And if you're running a campaign or if you're like the digital marketer and you're reporting to a client, it makes you feel really good because you can say, our reach was 20,000 people. But sometimes these metrics don't really give you any measure of success, and they certainly don't do it on their own. So while there are metrics that I'll classify as vanity metrics, that doesn't mean don't measure these things. It doesn't mean don't pay attention to these things. It just means that you need to make sure that you're looking at more than one type of metric to make any type of analysis. So this is just about being a smart marketer. And those of you who are also in the Twitter marketing class or really taking any course with me, this is something that I talk about, and this slide is the same in every course because we want to make sure that we're not focusing on these vanity metrics because they can lead us astray as marketers. One metric is not enough. So you need to be looking at multiple different metrics to make sure that you've got a full picture of what's happening with your strategy. So your metrics need to be goals-based. You need to track multiple metrics. You need to compare these metrics over time. You need to compare the same metrics over time. So for example, if you're looking at something like page likes on Facebook, it's great to see, that day how many likes do you have on your page, but you also want to look at trends over time, and we'll take a look at that in Facebook Insights in a minute. But really what you want to do is you want to see, is there an increase in how many people are liking our page? Are there decreases? And when we look over time and we look at a graph of our page likes ups and downs, are we seeing high variability, or is the trend going in one specific direction? So it's really important to compare over time to get that bird's eye view of what's happening. And then we always need to be asking ourselves as smart marketers, which you are all becoming, ask yourself, why is it important to measure this thing? So if you have decided that reach is something that's very important for you to measure, you need to justify it. So going through the process and justifying everything will be part of our assignment, and it's something that you always want to keep doing. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I still find myself always wanting to go back to make sure that I am measuring the right things for the right reason. And if you keep going back and asking yourself, why is it important to me to measure this? Why is it important to me to be reporting this to my client or to my boss or to myself? You want to keep asking these questions to make sure that you're on the right track and measuring things that will help you improve over time. All right, Facebook Insights. We'll take a look at Facebook Insights in a live version momentarily. So this is what Facebook page insights look like. So this is a 28-day overview of a Facebook page. And so I think that this is a really great overview of kind of what's happening with your page. You're not getting any granular information, but you are getting trend information. So let's take a look at what each of these things look like. And when we're talking about what we want to do with your information, it really does depend on your goals. So when we're looking at metrics, we want to think about, what are we trying to achieve with our Facebook page? What are we trying to achieve with that audience? And is it working based on these metrics? So actions on a page, on all of the Facebook business pages now, you've got that call to action button. So it can be something like sign up, download now, make a purchase, shop now. So those are the page actions. So on this page, this is actually data from a client's page. I just started working with this client, and he hadn't set up the action on his page yet. So we just got that set up, so there are no actions for this time period. So the things that you want to ask yourself when it comes to looking at this metric is, are people converting the way that you hoped? So if you have a sign up button and nobody's clicking on it, maybe it's because you've got the wrong call to action there. Maybe you're not convincing people that it's worth it to sign up for your information. Have you been promoting that conversion? So you're able to promote the action on your page through Facebook advertising. So sometimes if you've just started to build your Facebook page, or if you've just put that button on your page, it might be worthwhile for you to promote that option, but also by giving people a reason to promote. So if your call to action is sign up because you want people to sign up to your newsletter, you want to make sure that you're telling people why it's important to sign up to your newsletter. Are they going to get tips? Are they going to get promos and giveaways? Are they going to get expert advice? Are they going to get exclusives? So make it, give it some sense of urgency and some sense of, I'm getting good value by giving you my email. And then if people are clicking on that button, so let's say this number was 100, I would say, oh, awesome, I've got 100 people clicking on my sign up button. But then I go over to my MailChimp list and I see that only 2 people have signed up. Then there's some sort of problem in terms of my conversion rate. So people are already saying, yes, I want to sign up, but then when they get to my website, there's a major drop off in conversions. Have I set them up for, have I set myself up for failure by not providing people with a reasonable understanding of what they're getting themselves into when they click that sign up button? So these are all things to consider when we're looking at this metric. The next one that we can go through is reach. So reach is how many people saw your advertisement. And I use the word saw very loosely because this measures when people have your post delivered on their timeline. It doesn't mean that they've stopped to read it. This doesn't measure whether or not somebody's clicked on it, whether or not somebody's hovered on your post to read it all the way through. So this is why I consider reach to be a vanity metric on its own, because it's not telling you anything super tangible about whether or not somebody is interacting with your brand. Now, reach can be important because if you see trends over time, you can see how well your posts are performing in terms of making it into people's news feeds. So this can be especially important when you are doing advertisements and you want to know, okay, are my ads at least winning the bids and getting into people's timelines? Then it's about converting people. So reach over time can be an important metric. And looking at the trends for reach, I think, are the big points where you can learn things. So you can see that there on this graph here, there are some spikes, there are some significant dips. So think about, why was your reach really, really high in the beginning? What caused it to dip? How are my posts differing from before in terms of content, the subject, what I'm asking people to do? So these are all questions that you can ask yourself to figure out why these highs and lows could be happening, and then figure out, what am I going to do to try and get more highs as opposed to lows to get that trend on the increase. Post engagements, I think, is a really great metric to use on Facebook. So this is anytime somebody has a reaction. So they do the like, the love, sad, angry, wow, and one other one, maybe not. Anyways, so what are those post engagements? What are people doing? Are people clicking? Are people commenting? Are people sharing? So this is all the way that people are actually like tangibly interacting with your posts. And so this post engagement, I feel, is a much better metric for you to be honing in on Facebook, because it's actually people interacting with that post, whereas reach is maybe somebody saw it while they were scrolling through their newsfeed. So again, when we're looking at this metric, what trends are we observing? Are the posts that you have with calls to action, are these engagements working? What posts are resonating best or worst? So when we take a look under the hood in Facebook Insights, you'll be able to see that Facebook will say whether or not it was a photo, whether it was a video, whether it was just a link, whether it was just text. So you can see which types of posts are doing better. And of course, it's up to you to know at the granular level what content is doing better. So if you are, if you sell clothes and you are posting a bunch of different posts about different types of clothing, and you notice that all of the sunglasses posts are getting really high traction, that must mean that you've got an audience that is really interested in new sunglasses. So it could mean that you want to increase those types of posts. So these are all these different types of things that you can be thinking about when you're getting more granular about your post engagement metrics. So then at the post level, what types of engagements are you getting? Are there reactions, comments, shares? And what type of quality are those engagements? Are you getting positive or negative feedback? Are you doing anything with that positive or negative feedback? And we'll talk a little bit more about engaging with people when we talk about community management, but it is really important to think about all of these different things. So, if you're getting a lot of shares, that's great. That's people basically saying, yes, I support this. Or maybe they're sharing and saying, this is the stupidest thing ever. So looking at those different types of metrics can be really important for you. Page views tells you how many people have actually visited your page, your business page. So this isn't just people seeing something in your newsfeed. It means that they've clicked on your brand name to look at your page to see what else you've got going on. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve with your brand, what your goals are with your posts. If you want people to engage more deeply with your brand and you're hoping to get more conversions from your call to action button, then this can be a really great number. If you're really just trying to get people to view your new video, maybe this doesn't really matter that much to you, but that is something that is up to you. When you think about your brand goals and you think about what you're trying to achieve, are page views important? Page likes can be a vanity metric. And it really just kind of depends on how these likes have come about. So first and foremost, we want to be looking at our trends. Are we getting consistent page likes? We can see with this page, they have not been getting consistent page likes. And that has a lot to do with the fact that they didn't post anything on their Facebook page for about 3 months before we started working together. So they hadn't been getting a lot of page likes. There was a huge spike because we posted something for the first time in 3 months. And then we can see that it's kind of petered off because we haven't put any money into advertising yet. So what do these page likes mean? Do we have a trend of people going up? Are you losing people? So let's say that you post something that's super controversial. You might end up losing Facebook page likes. You might end up losing some of your fans. So these are the types of things that you want to be watching for. What is causing your spikes? So you can go through the data for your page likes and you can see which days you have these spikes on. So then you can go back to your post and see, what was I posting on my Facebook page that day that made more people like my page? Let's figure this out. You also want to think about, were you advertising your page? So if you are advertising your page, but you've only got, like, let's say you're spending $20 on page likes and you only get 11 likes, that's a pretty expensive like. So You want to be thinking about all of these other factors. And then also, were there posts that caused a mass exodus? So let's say that there was a huge dip in my likes. What was the post that caused that to happen? And oh my gosh, what can we do to make sure that we don't ever do that again? And then videos. So the fact that Facebook has put video views right front and center on your overview is a telltale sign that they are really looking to promote videos more when it comes to their algorithms. They're definitely shifting their focus from a brand point of view towards videos. So this is an indicator of that as well. If you have videos, this is a great way to see overall how your videos are performing, but I will say you need to take these metrics, this video metric with a grain of salt, because total video views does not mean a full watch. So if you have 134 people have viewed your video, that doesn't mean that they've viewed it all the way to the end. This is not like YouTube insights or YouTube analytics where you can actually see where people drop off and stop watching. You can see at what point in the video people are liking the video, when people are doing the most commenting, things like that. So you get a lot of really granular data when it comes to YouTube. That information is not yet available through Facebook. And I presume that once they start monetizing their videos, you will be able to get a lot more access to data. But for now, all you're seeing is video views. So overall, you'll be able to see, this is kind of like a reach statistic for your videos. So it doesn't really necessarily help you gauge whether or not people are interacting with that video or whether people are watching it all the way through, but it does tell you whether or not it is making the rounds on Facebook. And then you can actually get into some more granular data about what videos are performing better than others in terms of views, which, I mean, to me, this is really just video reach. This isn't, I don't like that they use the word views because it implies that somebody has viewed it all the way through. So really, it's video reach. And then you can also look at what types of engagements your videos are getting once you get into the granular post data. So, you know, are people giving it a lot of positive reactions? Are people angry? In your comment sections, are people, you know, overall positive or negative? Are they indifferent? These are all types of things that you can be looking at with your post information. So this is what you can see in your post data, and I just wanted to include it in the slides so that you have access to what this looks like, since we're going to be going into the back end later on. So you can see that there are a lot of different bits of information that come in your post information. So you see the date that it was published, you get a little snippet of the post, and if you click on the post, it'll take you to the permalink for that post, so you can take a look and get all of the additional information. You can see that there is post type. So we've got a video, there's a photo, another photo, this is a link. So you can kind of get a sense of how things are doing. You can sort it by all of these different headings. So you could sort and then take a look at all the video ones side by side to see, you know, how the reach is doing, how the engagement is doing, whether or not you've promoted them. So the targeting, you can target your posts to be global, or you can target them to a specific subset of your Facebook page. I wouldn't recommend using that, and we didn't really dive into it, because unless you have a couple thousand or more likes on your Facebook page, this targeting option is probably going to limit you. Then we've got your reach data. So if you pay for reach as well, this will show up. So it'll be two different colors. So you'll have this kind of like yellowy color as your organic reach, and then you'll have this red color that will show up to show your advertising reach. And it's interesting to see what that split will look like once you start doing that more, to see whether or not your organic reach is more effective than your advertising reach. So those are numbers that you can get. And then you've got engagement. So reactions, comments, and shares are lumped together in this kind of like mauve color. And then your post clicks are all in this like lavender blue color. So you can get a sense just as an overview of how people are engaging with your posts. And this is a good snapshot to see, like, oh, okay, I can see that this post was successful. Let me click on it. We'll go see what's going on. And because I already know that organically this is a really helpful post, I could click boost this post, pay $5, and I can use this data to see, all right, I already know that this is, on the whole, a more successful post amongst my fans, so I'm going to boost it to get more people because they were my guinea pigs to tell me that this was something that people want to see. Okay, so this is the back end of Facebook Insights, and I apologize for my voice. I have apparently been talking too much. Anyway, so this is what Facebook Insights looks like if you haven't had a chance to look at this for an existing page. So I'm on the overview page right now, and I've got it set to the last 28 days. So in the past month, basically, this is what's been happening on my Facebook page. So you get a great overview here. And then you can also get more context about what these statistics mean for your page. And when we're looking at our analytics, we always want to make sure that we are thinking about our goals and thinking about what we were trying to achieve. So it's really easy to focus on the bigger numbers because these bigger numbers make us feel like we're doing a really good job. It makes us feel like we're achieving something. But again, without that context, you're not going to know whether or not you're doing a good job. So, if you look at over the past month, there have been over 2,000 people reached. That might be great considering, there's only 42 page likes total. But what are our engagements on the post? Are people commenting? Are people liking and sharing? Is there any type of engagement happening? Reach might be fine if you're just trying to do a straight up awareness campaign. But for the most part, when we're talking about social media, we are trying to emphasize that social aspect. And reach isn't social. Reach is, what happens when you drive by somebody on transit with a big advertisement. You've got people who are seeing your advertisement. That doesn't mean that they're going out and buying your product. On social media, if we don't have engagements, we don't know if people are interacting with our content. We don't know if we're building any types of relationships or loyalty with our customers, and we don't know how things are resonating. So these are the types of things that we want to be keeping in mind. So this is the overview. You can see actions on the page, and then if you want to get more information about what each one means or you need a reminder, you can hover over the eye. So the number of clicks on the page's contact information and call to action buttons, how many times people were viewing the page, so on and so forth. We've gone through all these. Then you can take a look at the promotions section. So I had done some boosted posts just as a test to see how things would work out. And there was a reason why I selected these two for boosting my posts. So let's go right here into my posts section. So you can take a look. Let me go see all posts. So the ones that I boosted were ones that already had a lot of organic reach before I clicked the boosted post button. So this was a blog post that I'd written, and I posted it on this page as the first real post, and then I shared it on my personal timeline, and I got a lot of feedback from my friends, and they were sharing it and commenting on it. So I decided to boost this and see what happens. So when you do boost a post, you're able to see a breakdown between organic and paid. So organic comes first, paid comes second. So you can see that because of that $5, I reached an extra 252 people, which, really what I want to know is, are people engaging with it? So that extra boost did help get a little bit more engagement in terms of having reactions and people clicking on it, which is great because I wanted people to click through and read what I had written, and they did that based on some of the clicks and based on the analytics on that blog post that I can see. So I know that there was some follow through. Similarly, I boosted a post about tacos because it seemed to be resonating fairly well when I had shared it. But you can see that the post didn't get quite as much in terms of engagement. So it's a learning lesson. Maybe I didn't boost it at the right time. Perhaps I didn't have the right photo associated with it. Or, maybe it just, wasn't good enough content for people. So it's learning every time we put a little bit of money into our post to try and get a bit more traction. We want to learn from it, and we want to be really critical of the work that we're doing as digital marketers, because it's important for us to learn from what we're doing. We don't just want to say, oh great, I reached 900 people, check the box. It's a number that's going to impress my boss, or a number that's going to impress my client. You do want to impress your boss and your client. Obviously, you want to keep your job, you want to keep your clients, but you need to be totally critical of yourself to make sure that you're doing a good job and that you're meeting your goals. And, I was talking with a friend of mine who works for a PR company, and she was talking about writing a report for one of her clients, and she runs their social media pages, but all of the content comes from the client. So she really just takes what they give to her and packages it properly for social media and sends it out. And because they don't give her a lot of content, she's really scraping at the bits to get information. And she was like, oh, my boss just really wants me to report on reach, but I think if we report on engagement, that they'll really see how important it is for them to be creating new content for us every week. And her boss was really nervous about it, but she decided to report on the engagement instead of the reach, and she sent them back really low numbers with her recommendations and why these things happened. And it turns out that they are now going to be giving more content to her. So it was potentially a risk, because sometimes clients don't fully understand what these numbers mean, but she was able to get more content from the client, which makes it a more successful business relationship. So if you start things right off the bat, being super honest about how you're going to be reporting metrics, and if you really educate your clients or your boss or whatever it is that you're reporting to, if you educate those people about what these numbers mean, then you can work together to create a much more successful campaign. So normally what you're able to see, for some reason it's not showing up on my page here, and it might be just because there's not enough likes on this new Facebook page. You can see when your friends are online. So let me just pop over to another page that I know has this information. I don't think I'm going into the right spot. Okay, so if we take a look at a page that has been a little bit more established, we can see that you get this really great piece of information about when your audience is online. So this information is shown for the last 1 week period, and it's shown in your computer's local time zone. So that's really important if you are working with clients that are not in the same time zone as you need to do some careful calculations, because when you are setting or when you're looking at your analytics here, this is in your computer's local time zone. So for me, it's in Toronto time zone. But if I have a client, in the UK, or if I have somebody in Vancouver, I need to remember that when I'm posting, I don't want to be posting at 1500 hours of their time, if that's when we've decided is the right time. So you just want to make sure that you do your conversions properly. So this is an overview. So just like an average of the week when your audience is online, and then you can sort it by date. So you can see across the top here with the days, you can see that there are certain days where people are more likely to be on. I would not consider this to, obviously I haven't run any stats on this, but I wouldn't consider this to be a significant difference in dates, like a statistically significant difference. So for the most part, people are online every day. But you can, once you hover over each date, you can get a chance to see when people are online based on different days. So, there's definitely some trends. People aren't online, super early in the morning. And for the most part, you can see that there are some spikes throughout the week. So this is good for, and I know a lot of you were able to get this information and when you were submitting your excuse me, when you're submitting your content strategies, you were able to look at this when you were doing your schedule justification, saying like, I can see this information from my current page, so these are the numbers that I'm going to use. But if you are trying to figure out a content strategy or trying to figure out when is the best time for me to post my content, how are people responding to it, you can use this information as a bit of a benchmark of where you can start. So you can say, I want to try and get people on peak times. So you find all of your peaks and post on those times. And then maybe the week after that, you find your valleys and say, I'm going to post on all the valleys this week to see if that gets me a little bit more traction, because I'm not competing with all the other pages out there that are trying to get people when they're online. So those are just some ways that you can use this. And you can really just kind of click around and find all of the different information, as much information as you possibly can, using all of these different tools. So this is what the back end looks like. And then there's something that I wanted to show you. It's a Google Campaign URL Builder. So for those of you who are in my Twitter class, you'll be seeing this as well. But it's nice to see it twice. So your Google Campaign URL Builder is a way for you to tag your links so that when you go into your back end of Google Analytics, you can see where your traffic is coming from in the campaign section of your Google Analytics. So basically what you do is I'll put this link in our weekly readings, and I'll also put a link to a spreadsheet, which allows you to build these links without having to go to this website every time, which is really helpful. So basically what you do is you put in your website URL. So this is just like a little tester that I was doing for the Twitter class. So this is not a real company. So I put in trendyfashion.com. The campaign source was Twitter. The medium was an advert, because this is a demo of an ad campaign that we're doing, and the campaign name was Finally Spring. And so this is the super long URL that spits out. And now that you've seen this, you're probably thinking, I have seen this nonsense before. So if you are, one place that I really see it is on YouTube. So if you are watching a YouTube channel, say you're watching, a beauty blogger or somebody who's doing DIY, they'll say, link in the description below of where I got this product, or if you want to know what all my materials are, you can see links in the description box down below. And when you go to those links, they're normally Amazon links, and they are often affiliate marketing links. So this is a similar type thing. So they tag all of the information so that when you go to that link, you're actually sending additional data so that YouTuber gets paid their royalties or their affiliate marketing amount. So that's a little bit down the wormhole. But basically what you're doing with this service from Google is you're, for free, tagging all of your information so that when you then go into your Google Analytics, you're able to see where your information comes from. So you can also right here convert to a short link. But oftentimes when you're posting on Facebook, you would copy this link, paste it, let the preview show, and then you would get rid of your link so that it doesn't look all messy in your post text. So this is a great tool that I think everybody should start using immediately. If you are doing marketing, if you're doing any type of marketing that's driving people to a website, you should be tagging it so that you can track how your work is doing. So if I'm working with a client, I make sure that I tag all this information to show that the traffic is being driven by me. This is the work that I'm doing, and these are the different campaigns that we're running. So it's a good way to keep track of everything. Okay, so let's also talk a little bit about analytics for your advertisements. So these are important things to be looking at as well. So this was a campaign that I ran several years ago for a nonprofit, and it was a campaign-based nonprofit, so they were only around for a year. But I think that this is still a relevant look at how we used Facebook ads. So we ran 2 different adverts, and each of these had a couple of different ads within them. And so what happened was we paid about $35 No, sorry, those are my daily budget. So I've got a lifetime budget. So $30 times 2, so $60 total. And you can see the results of this. So overall, we got 95 page likes and we paid about 63 cents per page like. And you can get all of the different data in terms of your reach information. And you can also see when you click on each of these ads, you can see how each of those different ads perform. So let's just quickly take a look at that in this back end here. So in my Adverts Manager, we can take a look at these campaigns. So what you can do is you can look at the different advertisements that were used. So this is all the different creative and copy that was provided to me by my client, and so we used that these different advertisements, and you can see how well each one did. So you can see that the most successful likes here were just, I think I can click on these and, no, I can't see that. These are old ads, so they might not work very well in terms of us getting the right data. Okay, so you can get performance information. You can see how much each specific result cost on each day. So that's really quite interesting. You can see the demographic information of who it resonated with most, so mostly women because that's who we were targeting. And you can also see the placement, and we had focused on Facebook at this point because these other options weren't available to us back when we were advertising. So you can get a lot of great information. You can see which ones are doing best and when your advertisement is still running. So if these were all still running and I could say, oh, you know, I've got a bunch of advertisements that aren't doing very well, I can just turn these off because then your relevancy score is not going to be very high. So when we were running these had a relevancy score of about 6 or 7, and then the ones down here were under 4. So we shut those off immediately because we didn't want our relevancy score to impact the rest of the advertisement. So you can see how well each one did in terms of page likes because that was our goal. So if you are doing some other type of goal like website conversions, you'll be able to see how many conversions were done on your website, what the reach was, and what your cost per click was. So this is where things get a little bit interesting and we can get really into the weeds in terms of using our analytics to calculate things like ROI. So let's say that this campaign was, instead of a page-like campaign, it was a website conversion. So we wanted people to go to the website and we wanted to convert them to donors. And we know that on average, the website donors for this particular charity, the average donation that a website visitor would give was $20. So if I was paying 88 cents per website conversion, that means that for every basically dollar I spent, I was making 20. So that's a pretty good ROI, I would say. Of course, this number is going to be much higher. Your cost per result for a website conversion is probably going to be more like between $5 and $20, depending on the bidding that's happening and whether or not there are a bunch of people trying to find your specific target audience as well. But these are the types of calculations that you can do using your advertising results and then knowing what a typical website conversion is worth to you. So similarly, you can do these types of calculations. Your sales team or the rest of your marketing team should have an idea of how your website traffic relates to your return on investment and relates to your sales. So if you know that your website conversion rate, say you're an e-commerce website, and I think typical stats will tell you, depending on where you read and who was involved in the survey, a conversion rate of about 3% is the industry standard. So if you've got, if you know that for every 100 people that visit your site, 3 of those people are going to purchase something, and you know on average how many people purchase your product, you can calculate how much each website visit is worth. So based on that information, you can know how much you want to bid for your Facebook ad. So if you know that, let's say each visitor is worth $20, then you know that you don't want to be bidding more than $20 for somebody to come visit your website, because you're just going to be hemorrhaging money. So these are the types of things that we want to think about when we're doing our advertising, when we're reporting on our metrics, and we're making sure that we're relating all of the metric reporting that we're doing back to our overarching goals. So this is an interesting tool that HubSpot has built. So you can kind of determine what your ROI is if you know a little bit of information. So let's say I have, let's say I have 1,000 people. Why is it doing this? Let me just refresh the page. Let's say that I have 1,000 people that like my Facebook page, and each day I have one person on average will unlike my page, and I'm posting 3 times a day on my Facebook page. And on each of my Facebook posts, I'm getting about, let's say, 15 clicks on my post, and my my site conversion is 3, and the average conversion value I know is about $50. So then this kind of gives you an estimate of how much those likes are worth on your Facebook page. So take this with a grain of salt, okay? This isn't going to be the same for every person. It's going to be different for sure. And this doesn't mean that it's like a definite amount for your page. So it's just an interesting tool. It's an interesting way to frame your mind in terms of what you're doing on Facebook and relating it back to business objectives. But there's another side of social media when it comes to reporting and metrics and really getting into the nitty-gritty and trying to figure out what your return on investment is. And that is, it's very hard to place value on handshake. So, old-timey business tactics, not old-timey, I mean, they're still totally relevant, but the pre-social media version of social media was networking events. And you would go and shake hands, and you would go and collect business cards, and for whatever reason, that was never questioned. Nobody said, what's the return on investment of you going to this business meeting? It was always like, well, this is a great networking opportunity. Of course I'm going to go to this business meeting. Sometimes we also have to think about social media in this same way. It's about engaging with people. It's about getting to know the relevant people out there to you. It's about trying to find your voice and developing relationships with people. And that can sometimes be a slow burn. So although these types of tools are really important and really effective in terms of your marketing and your ability to say, like, I'm worthwhile, my job is worthwhile, us being on Facebook is worthwhile, that's definitely important. You also don't want to discredit the value of having a widespread network and friendships, because sometimes you never know when those types of relationships are going to be profitable to you. So just keep those things in mind when it comes to reporting. So really, when we're looking at our advertising goals, this is when it's going to be important to kind of determine whether or not things have been successful. So for example, if you have, if you have your advert goal sitting at page likes, we know that brand awareness is your main objective here. So do you want to be thinking about things like, do your new fans convert to more engagement? Are you seeing more website traffic? Once you have more likes on your page, are the other metrics that you're able to access going up as well? So these are the types of things that you want to be thinking about. If your advertising goal is a post engagement, that's great. That means you're interacting with your audience, you're building those relationships. But are you building useful relationships? What types of insights are you gaining from people commenting on your posts? Has this led to a website traffic increase? Have your page engagements caused you to have more likes on your page? What are you achieving with those increased engagements on your posts? And let's say your advertisement goal is website clicks. So you've got this new traffic, so what? Are you in fact driving new traffic to your site? And what are your viewers doing once they get there? So you want to dig into your Google Analytics, your website analytics, and look at your bounce rates. So when people are coming from your specific Facebook campaign, what is the bounce rate? If you've got a super high bounce rate, somebody once, I can't remember who it was that said it, but it might have been Seth Godin. But bounce rate is basically the people who come to your site, see it, throw up, and leave. So they come to your website, it's not what they were expecting, and they immediately leave. And you don't want people to be bouncing because that means that they're not converting in any way, that they're not engaging with your brand in any way. So you want to look at the bounce rate of the people that you're driving to your website. You want to think, okay, if I'm driving them to a specific page on my website, what is the conversion that I want them to do on that website page? Maybe it's an e-news sign up. Maybe it's a sale. Maybe I just want them to read and leave a comment. That's a totally reasonable call to action as well. Are they achieving your goals? Or are they just coming, kind of looking through, staying for a little while, and then leaving? So these are the types of things that we want to be looking at. So remember, when we are dealing with metrics and key performance indicators, it's not formulaic in terms of this is always what we want to be measuring. Obviously, there is a set amount of things that you can measure through Facebook, and based on those different metrics, those are what you want to be using for your foundation of reporting. But you want to make sure that when you are reporting these things back to yourself, to your boss, to your client, whoever it is that you're reporting to, you want to be thinking smart. You want to be thinking goals-based. You want to be thinking, what are we achieving? To what end are we doing these things? And how well are things going? All right, let's take a look at your assignment for this week. For those of you who are also in the Twitter course, this will look very similar to you. Basically, what I want you to be doing is defining your Facebook KPIs, and you should have at least 3. So what Facebook metrics will you be focusing on, and why will you be focusing on these metrics? And you need to justify your decision. So then I want you to think about how often you're going to be checking on your metrics and how often you're going to be reporting, and I want you to justify your decision, and you get the same amount of marks for each one. So just really sit back and think about what are the types of things that matter to you, what matters to your brand, and why, what value are these different metrics going to be bringing to your brand. This shouldn't take you too long to do for an assignment. I know that the Facebook advertising assignment was a bit of a doozy for some people, and that's totally fine. It was meant to be a more in-depth assignment because the advertising part is much harder. So this is really just taking a look at what is important to you and your brand in terms of measurements. And that's it for this week. So thanks a lot for listening, and I am looking forward to reading your assignments.